When did you first realize your dad was sweetness, Jarrett Payton? When did that first hit you?
You know what, Rich? It's funny to think about. I think back in the day when my dad retired in '87. So for me, it was kind of like around, I would say like 85, 86, around the Super Bowl time when we would go to eat at one of my favorite fast food restaurants, and they would hand out these Bears cards, and I would get them, and we'd always collect them, but I'd always get the 34 Walter Payton ones, and that's when I was like, holy cow, my dad is like a huge deal. he's like a big deal. And I think as we got older, and it was right around 87 when he retired, of just going places. Like we would go to the mall, and he would walk into the mall, and he would be surrounded by people. And I think not only did I know he was like a superstar at that time, but it also gave me perspective of what kind of person that he was. And the reason why the highest honor in the NFL is named after him, the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, because he would sit there the entire time and talk to everybody and sign every single autograph. And so for me, it really kind of gave me kind of the blueprint of how I wanted to be as a person. And I remember my dad would always say, don't be like me, son, be better than me. And I didn't understand what that meant as a kid, because I would always say, Dad, you're the GOAT. Like, you're the GOAT. How am I supposed to be better than you? He wasn't talking about on the field. He was talking about off the field and how you are to people, how you carry yourself, being a leader, and in your community and also in your circles. So, yeah, it was in the mid-'80s when I knew that my dad was a big deal. And then later in life, I think it was just seeing like just watching all the videos of my dad and seeing him like hanging out with Tom Cruise and like the people, like his circle that he used to hang with. And at the Super Bowl, last time I saw you in L.A., when we were walking around, and my sister and I were walking from the field handing out the award, and then we come upstairs and someone's like, "Oh, Magic Johnson wants to see you guys." So I dropped my phone. I was like, "What? Magic wants to see us? Like, why?" So we go into his box, and we're sitting there and we're talking to him. He gets up and he's like, "Jarrett, Brittany, what's up, guys?" He's like, "Man, I used to hang with your dad, man. I loved him." And I'm just thinking to myself, man, my dad was so cool, man. Like, he was one of the coolest guys, and probably the reason why his nickname was Sweetness.
So there's so many ways for me to follow this up, Jarrett, and I apologize that this is the one strand that I'm going to pull on, and I think you know what I'm talking about. What do you mean, Tom Cruise? Your dad was hanging with Tom Cruise? Give me that one. Come on, what are you talking about?
I know that they were at certain events together, but Rich, I mean, my childhood growing up was just not normal, and I said it in this Epics documentary. It's like, yo, this is not real. We're like, Michael Jordan came to my house in the late 80s and rang the doorbell, and I remember running to the door and my dad whistling, saying, "Go get the door," and I had no clue. We didn't have the lights on in the front, and I open up, and it's MJ standing there with like two big bodyguards and one of his boys. And he hopped out of a Geo Tracker, just to let you know. It was not like a Bentley or anything like that. It was a white Geo Tracker. And he comes into the house, and we normally would take like our company's coats and like put them on our washer and dryer instead of the coat room, because my mom had all her fur coats. And Burt Reynolds used to always send my dad a leather coat every single Christmas. So we end up putting their coats on the washer and dryer, and my dad and Mike go downstairs, and we had an atrium in the middle of our house where it had glass. I could see them. My dad was setting up a card table, and I run downstairs because he whistled, and he said, I said, "Dad, what do you need?" He goes, "I don't need anything. Mike needs you." And Mike's like, "Yo, little man, I need you to go get something." I'm like, "Mike, I know we have a Gatorade outside with your face on it." Like, right? And he looks at me and goes, "No, I'm good. Just go upstairs and get the money that's in my pocket." And if you guys would have timed my 40-yard dash, it's definitely faster than Rich's.
Thank you, sir.
Dash, right?
I hope so.
And I get upstairs, and I go in his pocket. He's got all this money rolled in rubber bands, hundreds, 50s, 20s. And I bring it down, and he gives me $5. And I said, "Thanks, Mike." And then about 2 hours later, my dad whistles again. And my dad had all this money that he's counting in his hand, and Mike's got his head in his hand and said, I remember him giving me the $100 bill, and I said, "Dad, what's this for?" And he said, "I just took all of Mike's money. Say thanks." I'm like, "Thanks, Mike," and I ran upstairs into the night with $105. But just to be able to see those, like who my dad hung with, and they were at my house until like 3 or 4 in the morning, battling at everything, and Mike was trying to get his money back, probably.
Oh my God, what a story!
Wow.